All right, so in this particular one, we're going to see how we can use the multi-level lists for our section headings. So we're going to make sure that the sections within our document can have a hierarchical numbering like 1, then 1.1, 1.1.1. That is exactly what we're going to see in this particular section. Now I already have my document well numbered. This is the cover page. We have the preliminary pages. We also have the main body of the document. And I've left this blank space because I'm going to use that for the table of contents. Now we have the body of the document. Now this is chapter 1. That is going to be the introduction. Then within the introduction, we're going to have subsections. So the background can be 1.1. Then within that, we can also have 1.1.1. And then the literature is going to be, the literature is going to be the second chapter. So this will be chapter 2, literature. And then the methodology will be chapter 3. I've eliminated the content to make it easy for me to navigate through this document. Now, before we apply the multi-level lists, we have to make sure that we have these sections properly numbered and set up. So how do we do that? Now, first of all, I'm going to make sure that all this text is actually aligned very well to the left. All of it aligned well to the left. And also make sure that all your paragraphs have a consistent numbering format. If you choose Times New Roman, make sure you choose that throughout the document. So now I'm going to apply the different heading styles for the different section headings that are within the document. So what I'm going to do, because I know this is going to be heading 1, I select it, then make sure it is heading 1. And this is going to be my heading 2. Make sure it is selected as heading 2. Now you realize that I have to make sure that this heading 1 has the same consistent numbering format like heading 2. So what I do, select that particular one, or you can simply come over here and choose modify. So here, heading 1 is the name. Then I'm going to make sure it is Times New Roman. Then the color is black. That is the automatic. Then I click. I can also make it bold. Then I click OK. So all my heading 1s are going to take up that format. I can also, for example, if I come to the methodology, to the literature, select that and make sure it is heading 1. And that is the format that I actually want. I can go ahead and do the same for heading 3. For example, if I do have something to do with, maybe I have objectives, then main objective, then I have specific objectives. So I'm sure these are going to be my heading 3 items, something like 1.1.1, and this will be 1.1. Or whichever, this could actually be 1.5, so this would be 1.5.1. So what I'm going to do there, I also go to heading 3. I also modify that and make sure it is Times New Roman, and it is also bold. So when I set that to heading 3, you realize it takes that format. So that is one step in using the multi-level lists. We have to make sure that our headings are in order. in the way we want them to be in terms of writing. After that, we're going to define the multi-level lists. So how do we do that? You may select this for any of the items. Then you come over here to the multi-level. So you have the bullets and numbering formats here, the bullets, then the numbering, then the third one is the multi-level list. So we are going to define a new multi-level list. Now, when we define a new multi-level list, we are going to see that the different items are catered for. The different items are catered for. The first one represents the level 1 or the heading 1. The second one represents heading 2. The third one represents heading 3. So what you're going to do, we are going to select on the very first one, which is heading 1. And we want that to, in this case, we want it to be something like chapter, then probably we have a 1 there, right? So chapter 1, then space, then the word introduction will follow. So we shall have something like chapter 1, then some space, then introduction. Now, we want to make sure that it takes this numbering format of 1. So I'll remove the one that I had initially put. So it's going to be chapter 1, then introduction. Now, if you do not want the word chapter to appear within your section headings, you simply remove it. Then it would be 1, then introduction. Or you could even have it as 1 point, then introduction. That's how it will appear. But for my case, I wanted to have the word chapter. I wanted to have word chapter 1, chapter 2, then the name of that particular chapter. Then when you scroll down, you see that there are some things that we might need to change. For example, where do you want it to be aligned? Do you want it to be there? That would mean you have it as 0. If you want it to push forward a bit, you indent inwards, like the word chapter, instead of starting from just there, it begins from inside. That is where we're going to make those adjustments. For now, I want it to begin to be aligned at 0. That means it's just there on the left margin. Then the alignment is on the left, of course, like we can see here. That one is okay. Then the text indent is at. Now you can also set where you want the text to be starting from. Now here, these figures you simply going to be experimenting to see where what happens if you push your text inwards a bit. So I'm going to leave it at there. You can experiment to see what will work for you. And then here you're going to see sometimes this will be less, other times it will be more. For example, if you see it as less, that means this section is already showing. If you find it like that more, then you click on more, then this section will be showing, and we need this section to make our settings. So now, because this is heading 1, we are going to link it to style level of heading 1 that we just set previously. Remember, we did the settings for heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. So that's why it's always important that you have all those settings for the different headings well laid out. So I already have my settings, so I make sure heading 1 is selected because it's going to apply to heading 1. So heading 1, yeah, on 1 here, chapter. You see, this is a preview. Oh, this is supposed to be chapter. We even have a preview here. So chapter 1, then the name of that particular chapter. In this case, it will be introduction there nicely. Then Once we have that, then sometimes when you come here, follow number with, we're going to see this after we have the word chapter 1 introduction. Somehow you will see that in between the word chapter 1 here, in between chapter 1 and the word and the chapter name, there might be a lot of space. And that is where this section will be very important. Very important. So you can reduce that to space or reduce that to nothing. So you will have to experiment. Now let's leave that under tab character, and you'll see the effect of that. But if you see that the space between the word chapter 1 or the number 1 and your actual section heading is too big, then you'll have to come back here and you can put nothing or just a space. The tab is always going to be the biggest. So heading 1, well set up. Then you're going to go to heading 2. We're going to do the same. Now, here, what is very important is to go to this section here. It is very important. Include level number from. Now, because heading 2 is going to be 1 point something, and that first one is basically representing heading 1. So we're going to have to select level 1. So heading 2 is based on heading 1. Now, when we do that, we come over here and make sure the 1 is selected. And what is also important is to make sure that the preview here tells us the exact story we want to have. Now, let me first remove this. If I come here and choose level 1, remember, we want this to be 1 point. So now this first one represents chapter 1. So we shall have to put 1.1. Make sure this is 1. It's 1.1. And that is what we expect it to be. So 1.1, then followed by the name of the heading. Now you see here, this alignment is moving inwards a bit. Again, you can reduce that to 0, such that they are all in line. So 1.1 plus the name of the section. Again, if this is too big, you can do a space. Now, observe what's happening here as I reduce that. If it's a character, the space is big. If I reduce it to a space, it reduces. If I reduce it to nothing, it's just there. So we're going to make sure it is space. Then, so 1.1, that's fine. Then the next setting we need here is to make sure this is tied to heading 2. So that is how it's going to appear. Then we finally go to the third one, which is going to be 1.1.1. So that one is going to be based on, so I'll remove this. It's going to be based on level 1, first of all. It's also going to be, now you observe what's happening here. It's based on level 1 because even if you have 1.1.1, that means the first one represents the level 1 heading, the second one represents level 2, and the third one represents the actual level 3. So I'll make sure this 2 is also selected. Oh, I also make sure this is so now these 3 are representing heading 3. So I make sure there's a dot in between there. And that is what I want to see. So you always have to make sure that this preview shows you what exactly you want to achieve. Let me first remove that and we'll do it again. So make sure it's based on level 1. We can put a point. Again, we make sure it's based on level 2, and we also put a point. So that is how we want it to appear. Or you can simply choose level 1 there, then make sure this is 1, then you choose level 2, Now we have 3 of them. Then you go ahead and put points in between there. One more time, I am going to select level 1, make sure it is 1 there, then select level 2, and I'm going to come here and put 2 there. Then I am also going to make sure that the alignment is at 0, such that they are all in line like that. Then this is going to be tied to level 3 heading. When I finish that, now remember, you're going to be doing these settings once. After that, you'll only be applying them. So I'll click OK. Now, ready, it's appearing. So now this is going to be my heading 2. What I do is to select heading 2 there. This is another heading 2. Just select it and automatically everything is applied. This one is heading 3. Now, this is the space I was talking about earlier. You can always go back to the level 3 heading. Let's go back. Define a new multi-level list. Then we are interested in the level 3 heading. And see here, it has a tab. So we're going to reduce that to a space. Click OK, and the space reduces. Then this is another level 2. And this is already chapter 2 literature. That is nice. And this is methodology. And this is another level 1. Now, if you do not want this chapter to appear, all you have to do is you go back to your, again, define a new multi-level list. We go back to our settings. In this case, all you have to do is to remove the word chapter. And then when you have that 3 or a 1, you can just represent that you add the dot there, and the preview shows you how it's going to appear. Then I'm seeing there's a lot of space between these two. I'll click space, it reduces a bit, then click OK. And when we go back, we see, when you go back to 3, we see that it is actually having 3 and a space and methodology. So that's how we're going to be doing. So, but I always like having the chapter plus the name of that particular chapter. Now, when you go back to the top of our document here, we see that these items do not belong to any section and we want them to be part of our table of contents. So I'm going to make this a heading 2 there. And this is also going to be a heading 2. But now you realize that they do have this number, but that is very easy. So just delete that number and you also delete this number, because if you don't delete this number, it might mess up the rest of the document. But it remains a heading 2 section regardless, although it doesn't have a number. So now the final thing I have to do here, I can invoke the navigation pane. If I go to view, then you select the navigation pane, you can now see the structure of my document, and this can help me with the navigation. I can always go to this one, I can go to this one, I can go to this chapter quickly and easily there. So that's the navigation pane. If you don't need it, you just click and turn it off. Now, the final thing we're going to do is to represent all our sections in the table of contents. So what I will do is I'll go to that blank page that I had left, click over there, I go to references, then add a table of contents, and it's representing all my elements the way I want them to appear. So if this table of contents is not appearing, in the formatting styles you want, you select it, then you choose Times New Roman, and then you can also increase or decrease its size. So That is how we can apply multi-level lists to our documents. Now, if I create a new section here, I just select that section and add it to section 2 heading, and it will also take up the same format.